Emily had just entered the apartment and immediately went to her mom. "Mom, buy me shoes with the highest heels." Mom didn't understand at first. Her daughter had never worn such footwear, and with her small foot size, there were hardly any high-heeled shoes available. Besides, Emily had her own style that she'd been loyal to since 7th grade. Jeans, t-shirts, caps. She had a couple of dresses that she wore a few times when her parents really insisted, like when they went to visit the boss, who also had a daughter the same age as Emily. You couldn't even compare them. Jessica, the boss's daughter, was tall, model-like. She loved clutch bags. She probably had about a dozen. Emily had 5 or 6 backpacks, and in everything else, the girls were different externally, but they were both gigglers. But Emily didn't have high-heeled shoes. There were sandals bought for the prom under pressure from Mom and her friend, who scolded Emily for sitting in the corner half the evening because of the uncomfortable heels. Then she came home and tossed the sandals somewhere on the balcony with other unnecessary things. What's happened? Mom wants to know where this interest in high heels came from. Emily was already used to everyone being surprised by her height, all because her height was a little less than 1.5 meters, and all sorts of mishaps. Even now, she carries her passport to be let into movies without accompaniment. On her first university day, the curator, when introducing herself to the group, asked everyone to stand when she called their last name. So Emily's last name is called. The curator scans the auditorium and asks, "No round? I saw Emily here. Stand up, please." "I'm already standing." Emily already knew what would happen next. Everyone laughed, including the curator, though she only smiled. It was hard to stay serious, seeing this girl who, even standing, was barely visible over the desk. And Emily had wanted, at least on the first day, not to draw attention to her height, so she came to the auditorium earlier than everyone, sat at the second-to-last desk, only she didn't know that here, like in school, during roll call, you'd have to stand up. That her height couldn't be disguised. It was in vain that she came first. In the auditorium, you could hear Thumbelina, basketball player. Emily guessed about the possibility of such behavior from those around her. She assumed, at least. It wasn't new to her. She was used to it. And her classmates got used to it and called her that without mockery, just as a fact. And Emily herself had almost learned not to complex about her 1.5 meters and had long stopped figuring out why her tall mom and dad had a daughter of such unremarkable height. A couple of weeks later, everything was calm in their group. Occasionally, someone might comment on Emily's height in English, but that's understandable. They were studying foreign languages, main language English plus German. Contrary to usual statistics, in their specific group, there were more guys. Not twice as many, but more. And there was one mysterious student who hadn't come to class yet. The group leader, Ethan, said that this absent student was sick, but he appeared and Emily saw him first. By habit, she came to the lecture earlier than everyone and was going up to the second floor. Ahead walked a young man leaning on a cane. Over his shoulder was a backpack. On almost the last step, the guy stumbled and the backpack fell down the stairs. Emily went back and picked up the backpack, handed it to him. He smiled embarrassedly and said, "Thank you, little girl." Emily was embarrassed and even a bit offended by this little girl, and she silently hurried to the auditorium. A little while later, this guy with the cane entered, saw her, and approached. "Did I offend you?" "You see," thought Emily. "Not very," she said. "Can I sit next to you?" the guy asked. That's how they met. The newcomer turned out to be that very student who hadn't shown up at the university for almost all of September. He easily and simply explained to Emily that he had a complicated leg fracture, his own fault, miscalculated a jump on the sports ground. First, a week in the hospital, then he sat at home. He hardly knew anyone in the city where his whole family had moved at the beginning of summer, and this was, as his parents promised, the last move because of his father's service. The family's lifestyle was nomadic. Ryan passed the exams and was accepted into the faculty. He already knew he'd be accepted, excellent certificate, and all exams excellent too. And he quietly studied and got to know the city, but he was unlucky, fell stupidly with an open leg fracture. The ambulance took him, and until the leg healed properly, he sought storming and confinement at home. He studied the city from the balcony, from the room windows, but the house was tall enough so he saw the surroundings.
and he waited until they allowed him to go to the university. They allowed it, but only with a cane for now. You still couldn't fully load the reassembled leg. And on the first day, Ryan met Emily. Then he realized that this little girl was studying in the same group as him and guessed that she was long tired of mockery because of her small height. But Ryan then didn't imagine that this girl was his peer. But he imagined that it would only make it worse if he apologized 100 times for his blunder, so he didn't apologize. But they left the university that day together. Ryan limped, leaning on the cane, and Emily tried to match his walking pace. He didn't understand then if she pitied Ryan or was just polite. While they walked to the stop, they talked mostly about the city unfamiliar to Ryan, where he would now live, and Emily was born here, so she knew everything about the city and answered Ryan's questions or told something herself. That's how they started going everywhere together. How it happened, neither could explain. Probably no explanation is needed here. Some call it infatuation, some cautious interest. They didn't define anything, they just always ended up together. At first, Emily had doubts. When they walked together down the street, did the curious glances from passersby bother Ryan? No matter how you try, the height difference was significant, and someone even. And then Emily had to admit that it wasn't just doubt. Much more, almost fear that this curiosity would annoy Ryan and he would stop being with her. Then Emily wasn't thinking about any love, or rather forced herself not to think, but already knew she didn't want to be separate from Ryan. That's when Emily asked for high heels. She wanted to at least become taller that way, because from the side it was an unusual pair. You couldn't help but notice them. Ryan was athletically built, tall, confident gait, but the leg recovered. And Emily, such an angelic soul, a mop of curly hair, brown eyes taking up half her face, long fluffy lashes, and a figure like a fragile porcelain statuette, graceful and refined. And Emily reached Ryan's shoulder. That's why when he walked next to Emily, he always tilted his head toward her, and she could still laugh at the prospect that he'd end up with a crick in his neck. At the university, no one was surprised anymore that they were always together. The girls stopped teasing Emily that she could find a guy of matching height. Ryan suits the long-legged ones better. And seeing that neither Emily nor Ryan reacted to these teasings, they stopped. To some, their relationship might seem unusual in other ways too. They'd been together almost 5 years and no talk of marriage. Well, no one knew yet, only Emily and Ryan talked about their shared future. No, they discussed where they'd like to work. Ryan was good with digital technology and wanted to work with technical translations. He had long laughed frankly at texts translated from English that explained little and could confuse anyone. But a technical translator also means prospects for frequent business trips abroad to companies producing digital technology. Emily hadn't fully decided. She only knew she didn't want to be an English teacher, because of her height, of course. Emily knew that, and in practice she was even more convinced. Students found it hard to take her seriously, because in the 7th grades where she did her internship, many students were already taller than Emily. Emily would like to do literary translation, but she didn't really want to be just an interpreter. Here too, as Emily didn't hide, her height affected it. In short, the question of workplace remained open. But their feelings burst out, and Ryan confessed that he loved Emily and, as it seemed to him now, had loved her always, even before meeting her. So now he'd count to 10, wait for her answer, only let Emily fit into that time. Ryan was very scared, but let them say he loved a cowardly guy. Emily was already hanging on Ryan's neck. Yes, I love you. And they immediately went to Emily's grandfather. This was her most important adult friend. Emily loved her parents, she always knew that, but with grandfather it was precisely friendship that connected her. Not everyone has it that an elderly man with officer's bearing, with awards, truly befriended his granddaughter who never grew to his shoulder, but was equal to him in character, because she always kept her word and had a heightened sense of justice, which Emily had seemingly from birth. After grandmother passed away, grandfather moved to the dacha. He, together with Emily's dad, spent 2 years improving it, and the dacha became a country house. Grandfather said it was better for him there.
Winter fishing, and in summer the garden, which was in perfect order. Then the village near the city where grandfather now lived began to transform intensively. New modern houses were built, and to this day rural huts and new builds stand mixed.
And grandfather's house, spacious and comfortable, doesn't interfere with either style. And Emily loved not only grandfather, but also this house, where she knew every corner. Ryan had never been here. Grandfather knew about Ryan, not that they decided to get married, maybe he guessed, and now he'd find out about everything, and Emily would immediately understand if Ryan fit in or not. Well, it couldn't be that grandfather wouldn't accept Ryan. Now everything would be clear. And then to both sets of parents. But Emily immediately understood that grandfather wouldn't object to Ryan, and Ryan liked her grandfather too. And Emily felt so good. Their parents also took well to Emily and Ryan's decision to get married. The next day they met, discussed the wedding. Then it came to where the young family would live. Both sides invited them to themselves, but they decided to let the youth decide for themselves. Then there was always no time. Both were looking for and choosing jobs. After submitting the application, they had to think about wedding clothes. The restaurant and menu were taken on by the parents. And it turned out that Emily and Ryan found jobs on the same day. Ryan became a translator in a solid company, and Emily even jumped for joy. They took her as a literary translator in a publishing house, and she could work remotely if she wanted. That's when Emily decided that if Ryan could commute to his work from grandfather's house, it was better for them to live there. That grandfather wouldn't mind, Emily didn't doubt. Maybe the parents wouldn't entirely like it, but they wouldn't insist. "Well, what do you think, Em?" after listening to her, asked Ryan. "Can I object? Your eyes are sparkling. You love this house." "I adore it." Emily was already hanging on Ryan's neck. "Thank you." "And we should ask grandfather," said Ryan. "I know what he'll say." Emily really knew grandfather wouldn't object, only she didn't know that Emily's parents, learning where the young decided to live, would insist on moving grandfather to them. Well, how to them? Before they improved the dacha, turning it into a big house with all amenities, grandfather and grandmother lived in the apartment with Emily's parents and her. All fit not just in a 4-room apartment, all lived friendly, truly one family. It was after grandmother's death that grandfather shook himself up. He took on rebuilding the dacha house, and Dad joined right away, with granddaughter every weekend with them. And when the house was ready, in summer, no gingerbread could lure Emily to the sea, only grandfather's house in the village. And yet, Emily's parents managed to move grandfather to them. They put forth various
arguments, the last one found by Mom. Let them manage themselves, and besides, Emily loves this house very much. Then grandfather added, "Now we have regular minibuses to work, and from work, Ryan will get there. Many work like that." And they went straight from the restaurant, Emily with Ryan, to the country house. Until Ryan explored the whole thing, the house itself, the bathhouse, the garden, and flower beds, he didn't calm down. He said, "Everything here is so great that I understand you, Em." Almost every weekend, parents came to visit, and grandfather, of course. They had nothing left but to praise the young. "The house is clean, lunch tasty, yard and garden well kept." "Doubts are gone," said Ryan's dad. "And I didn't doubt," winked Emily's grandfather. And in mid-autumn, Emily met Ryan with frightened eyes, and Ryan knew she wasn't a coward, and here her height had no meaning at all. So seeing such Emily, Ryan got scared. "What, Em? What child?" Ryan started looking around. Emily laughed and started explaining that today she found out she's pregnant, and the repeat test confirmed it. Ryan, of course, wanted them to have a child with Emily, but that it would happen so suddenly? Now Emily needs to be careful. "Don't bustle around the house, okay, Em? I'll do everything myself." In the morning, they went to the women's clinic. Ryan was there until Emily came out with an unusual card, like several pages torn from a class journal, and told that they put her on record. Now the whole pregnancy she must be monitored, visit doctors. This first pregnancy both would remember for life, and not only because in the end a son was born whom they love and adore. There's another reason. Now Ryan at work didn't go on lunch break. Sipping coffee, he read everything he could find on the internet about how pregnancy goes, especially the first. He read and remembered that during this time, not only the woman's appearance changes, changes happen in her nervous system, in her psyche. And among the most noticeable changes in a pregnant woman is increased appetite. Moreover, she might want to eat in the middle of the night and want something she couldn't stand before. But so far, Emily had no such signs.
And if she wants, Ryan will get anything for her. But Ryan didn't have to wait long for unexpected desires. Now Emily could ask for grapes in the middle of the night, and there were none in the garden or the local store. Maybe not yet, but Emily wanted it right now. He understood that it wasn't so much she wanted as that already living little person she was carrying. Once, in the women's clinic, Emily met her former classmate. They were glad, started recalling mutual acquaintances, and then this classmate says to her, "Have you tested Ryan yet? I know, he's the most faithful and loving husband, but it's worth testing. It's a pregnant woman's thing. You can be capricious and ask for what you never asked. If he gets it, endures, then everything's fine. I'm testing mine the second time, pure pleasure." Emily just laughed then, but it turned out she remembered her words. She of course didn't test Ryan, asked only for what she really wanted. But just once, thought Emily, it's worth asking for something complicated. A couple of days later, Emily wakes Ryan and says she so wants ice cream. Ryan gets up, calls a taxi, goes to the city to a night store, brings several different kinds of ice cream at once, only Emily is sleeping. Soundly, while Ryan sleeps the remaining piece of night, main thing, ice cream in the freezer. At work, Ryan caught himself not understanding how Emily, and he knows she's smart, can control herself, can't hold back her desires, let them settle. Like with the ice cream, wait 5 minutes, Emily, and the desire would pass. God with it that Ryan had to go to the city in the middle of the night, only why? And from such thoughts, something like resentment began to accumulate toward Emily. This something is temporary, and he suppressed the feeling of resentment in himself, only not for long. Emily woke Ryan. "Honey, I so want real sour cream, only not store-bought." Ryan looked at the clock. 2 a.m. And sour cream and not store-bought? Sour cream which Emily never ate, not in borscht, not in rasolnik. Even cheese pancakes she ate without sour cream. Does she really want it? After all, she's looking so pleadingly. Where to get this sour cream at night? Ryan remembered that at the other end of the village lives a grandma, an old lady, and she sells dairy products. So he'll go to her. He can't refuse Emily. Ryan dresses and goes. Grandma doesn't open for a long time, then recognizes him. What happened in the middle of the night? He asked her for sour cream. Grandma scolded him, then heard that the pregnant wife asked for sour cream. Well, she remembered herself when expecting her first. In short, Grandma grumbled but went and brought a jar of sour cream saying it's the last, more only tomorrow evening. And Ryan returns and feels irritation accumulating in him. Emily never caused such a feeling in him before, but here, please. But he takes himself in hand. Emily is waiting for him at the door. Seeing the sour cream, she almost snatches the jar from his hands and drops it. Now the sour cream is spreading on the floor. Then Emily starts collecting the sour cream with her finger from the floor and begins to eat. Ryan can't even watch this, turns away and still tells Emily to get up and not eat from the floor. "Honey, please bring more sour cream," begs Emily, not even guessing that there's no more sour cream. No one in the village has it. Ryan can't hide his anger anymore. He sharply lifts Emily from the floor and says, "That's it, enough. Don't behave like a savage. Tomorrow you'll have sour cream. Go to sleep and let me sleep." This was a cry at her. For what? And Emily became scared. Then the fear disappeared, and everything disappeared. She lost consciousness. Until morning, Ryan spent in the maternity hospital. They explained almost nothing to him, ran around, called someone, summoned to the operating room. Ryan heard and didn't hear this. He understood that Emily was in danger, and the child, who wasn't due yet, was in danger. So he, Ryan, was in danger. If they're bad, if Emily's life is hanging by a thread, it's his fault. From such thoughts, Ryan himself almost lost consciousness. A nurse sees this, brings him a chair and gives water. She says something, only Ryan can't make out the words. He sits on the chair without moving until the doctor comes out. He says they saved both his wife and the child, but both are very weak. In the morning, everything will clear up and sends Ryan home. What home? No, he'll stay here. He'll think about them, ask them to hold on, and Emily will hear him. It's not the first time they heard each other at a distance. Emily heard him, wanted to tell the doctor about it, then doubted he might not believe. But Ryan will believe her. Sooner to see him, but first the son they promised to show soon. Need to tell so Ryan thinks what to name him. Ryan didn't immediately talk to Emily, then about the ill-fated sour cream. He just won't find words for apologies. After all, it was he who provoked the premature birth then. Whatever and whoever tells him that nature decided everything here, Ryan remembers how he didn't believe, how he got angry at Emily and how he yelled at her then. and he won't forget Emily's facial expression, only so that she never has such an expression again. But no matter how he delayed this conversation, Ryan, waiting until they bathe little Liam, Emily feeds him and puts him to sleep, confesses to her that he didn't believe then that his wife wanted sour cream. That's why he got upset so. But not only Ryan will ask for forgiveness, Emily will also tell him that she succumbed to that general whether trick or ploy that all pregnant women talk about. No, she really wanted sour cream then. That's why Ryan rightly said then that she behaved like a savage. But there were moments when Emily could turn on, she said it so rudely, turn on her brains so as not to send Ryan in the middle of the night for one thing or another. She's so ashamed and she asks Ryan for forgiveness. In short, how much and how they talked, only Emily and Ryan know. For both, this conversation was important. But when in 2 years, Emily again tells Ryan that they'll have another baby, both will try to think over the future mom's desires, and she'll control those desires. But not once will she ask for sour cream.